Hi, welcome back to the channel. This episode, I'm going to give you an update on the 355 stroker, which has been underway, and we are going to get stuck back into the bodywork and get those panels finished. All right, so first things first, an update on the engine. So as you know, or those who've been following, I've decided to do a 355 stroker on the old 308, Holden 308. And initially I went through the build list, was going to try it myself and then decided too hard. So I've sent it to Tony Knight in South Australia. And he's been working on it, or it's been in a backlog of engines due to COVID, so he finally got around to it. Yeah, he's basically built the short motor for me, so that's already completed and sitting currently in his factory in South Australia. But of course, I can't go over there because of lockdown restrictions still from Victoria to South Australia. We can't cross the border. It's most likely the worst time to restore a car in the history of restoring cars because everything is just backlogged. Can't go anywhere. Parts are on order, you can't get them. So yeah, it was already slow, but now it's even slower. So once I can get over there, the plan is, I've spoken with Tony about that, I'm going to drive over and assemble the rest of the engine in his factory with him guiding me, which will be really good content to actually film and for me to actually figure out how the engine works on that top side of things. So the serious side of the engine has been assembled, and that's the thing that can go Anyway, I'll run through what's been done so far with labour and parts. So it's been hot tanked, it's had oil mods done, which will obviously be required for the higher rev range of the 355. You need to move oil around that block more. I know the old Holden blocks have been notoriously bad for circulating oil, and I think in a couple of cylinders in the middle. Been rebored and honed. Dummy assembly, beam blasted, reface valve. So obviously I'm running with the VN heads. I think I mentioned that last time. Originally I was going to do stock heads, but if you're going to go to all this work, VN heads give you an extra 50 horsepower without really doing any work. So anyway, they'll be bead blasted, reface valves, fit valve seat inserts, cut valve seats in V-test, set valve stem heights, mill head, mild port work, machine for Teflon seats and machine for spring seats. VN heads were usually pretty easy to come by, but now they're getting harder and harder, as like everything at the moment. So I managed to get a set of VN heads off Tony, and they were originally sitting on his bench, and he was saving them for something else. But because we couldn't find any, and we had spoken about it earlier, he's decided to do that and just do the work on them. I'm lucky in that respect because they are getting harder to find. Parts-wise, we've got ARP main studs, ACL race main rod and cam bearings, Roller Master timing kit. In the end, Tony opted for a Crane 280 solid cam, which is probably better to have a solid cam. I think get a little bit more power. I splashed out and got an ASR oil pan and pickup because I love those oil pans, and they obviously will deliver oil faster. It's got a Romac balancer, good timing cover, lifters, doesn't specify what brand of lifters, it says lifters, springs, retainers and locks, Crow push rods and studs and guide plates, Speedflow stuff, I'm not too sure what that is, and Welsh plugs. And so that's basically for everything for the short motor and also the heads. And then on top of that, for the finish off the long motor, I'm going for a Brawler 750 CFM carburetor, if I can get one. Once again, prices of those have skyrocketed as well. I think they were about 650, now they're about 950. Ridiculous. And to fit it all under the bonnet of a H series, I'm going to go with an Edelbrock air gap. It's not the most high flow manifold you can get, but I don't want to get a scoop on the bonnet. I just want to keep it all under the bonnet. So I was recommended an air gap Edelbrock manifold from Luke Schiller as well. So top that off with a nice low mount air filter, and she'll all sit under the bonnet and have 450 horsepower, we're thinking, at the end of it. So, and the flies are back in summer now, pain in the ass. And yeah, so the engine's a big expense for the whole build. Obviously there's a lot of labour cost in there, but I'm happy to spend that and get the job done properly, as opposed to me learning on the job and stuffing it. And yeah, at least I'll get to go over there and have a little, play at finishing the long motor with Tony and seeing the process. So whether I get a dynote over there as well, yet to be decided. That's it, and you can see from the footage that it's looking pretty good. All right, so that's it for the engine update. I'm pretty excited about that. All right, so now it's time to jump back into the old dusty tomb of WB and get stuck into finishing all those panels. Okay, so I've got out of the booth. I've got this guard out just because I'm over that booth, but also, yeah, it's just a bit area, a bit more room to lay it down. So I actually built this bench out of pallet racking. So if anyone needs a good workbench, it's a really good option to do it, just like a 2.8. And the diagonal bracings on each side. Also just got a length at the back so I can put some pegboard eventually, but really good solid. I doubled up the form ply on the top, so it's a really good solid bench to work on, put a vise and stuff. But yeah, just thought I'd bring the guards out. It's a nice, even, flat working surface to lay them down and to really start sanding them back, getting them nice and straight. So I'm going to run over these. Still got high fill on them, so I'm just going to run some guide coat, sand them back, see if there's any lows, and then bring them back into the booth and run some of the polyester surfaces on them to feather those out until they're done. Okay, the front guard, I've given a bit of a rub down, and you can see there's a few little lows here. I haven't given it a full rub down, but based on that, I'm going to hit this with the polyester surfacer as well, and I reckon it's going to iron out those little lows instead of going in and doing body filler again, because they're literally just, you can hardly feel them, but they're just enough to create that low. So from my experience of using that surfacer, it'll iron out something like that quite easily. So I'm going to do that, but unfortunately I've run out, so I have to go into Bendigo and get some more, and then I can finish those two guards. And here's the main body. So giving this another run over. This section here, mentioned last time, and it was slightly compressed along this edge, so it looked like it did become a little bit sharper along there. And then as it comes down here, it broadens and then feathers out into the main panel. So I just wanted to try and reduce that sharpness. So I have done some more work, body filler work on there, and then put the polyester surfacer and feathered it out. So you can see now this side is ready to go basically. There is not one low on that panel now. So I've run over it with the guide coat again, and then 300. Yeah, no dark spots came through at all. The sill as well. And that was a fair bit of work on that sill. I know you guys have seen this a fair bit over the last month or so. And yeah, I've just really taken my time, and I don't want to spend all this time and effort and get it wrong. So that's why I've decided to just do more research and figure out the best techniques. And that polyester surfacer, as I mentioned, is 100% the way to go before your 2K high fill primer. It's really done the job beautifully. I used the Roberlo Express multi-filler, and I thought it did a brilliant job at filling all the holes in. So whatever you decide to use is entirely up to you. That was just what was available in my area in Bendigo and what Perez had. As I mentioned, I've seen some other guys use the All You Need, which looks fantastic, but extremely expensive for a 4 litre can. As mentioned, it's like high $300. That Roberlo was $45 for a litre, so which made me a little bit concerned when I first heard the price. So compared to that All You Need, because there's quite a big difference. So I don't know why that is, but from what I've used and what I've seen from the product so far, it looks exceptional. So when you spray the polyester surfacer on, got to give it a few days to sort of really dry out. You don't want it to shrink back under your primer. So that's what I've been told. So what I'll do now, just to give you an idea, for those who don't know about wet testing your panels, this is a technique that I've obviously researched as well, and I'll show you now. It really gives you a great indication of where your panel's at as far as your highs and lows. So I've just used a 50% metho, 50% water mix because it evaporates pretty quickly. Yeah, if you use some kind of solution that did evaporate, you don't want it to be absorbed into that panel because it is porous, that surfacer. Yeah, so anyway, I'll just give it a bit of a wet down and we'll have a look. I actually haven't sanded all this yet. This is just straight off the gun. So I've got yet to run over. This was already straight before I did it. So I just had some left over, so I thought I'd just give it a top up. But you can see, essentially this is mimicking what your panel will look like when it's painted, which makes you pretty excited at the same time. Okay, so you can see with that wet test, it gives you a really good idea of the panel, how the panel's going to be when it's painted. I haven't got a really soft cotton cloth at the moment, and this has still got some orange peel on it from the primer surfacer, but you can see the body lines perfectly, and you can see if there was any lows, you would catch them out now. So this side of the ute is ready to go. I'm really happy with it. Yeah, that's all I can say. It's just ready to go. I've done all I can do with my skills to get it to this point. And I'm confident when I put base coat on this, there's nothing that's going to pop up that's going to catch me out. And it's taken a lot longer to get it to this point, but absolutely, when you've spent 4 years on a ute, what's the point in rushing this last bit? Because let's face it, it's all about paint and wheels at the end of the day. That's what people see. The engine is not seen and not heard until you turn it on. So I reckon paint is the biggest investment you can undertake on a restoration as far as getting it right. And it's my humble opinion, at least anyway. So this is a roof. I've spent a lot of time on this roof as well. And really happy with it, but this is a great example of why I did the wet test, because you can see, and you might not be able to see this on camera, but there is a low just around there. So I've run over this twice with that primer surfacer. It might need one more coat just around this area, just to feather out that little low, but you can see the roof is pretty much 90% there. And that wet test is really good way to figure it out. So here's the driver's side in the wet test. The door is not bad. It's good at the base. There's a couple of little marks. If you don't get the marks completely 100% flush, then it throws you off as well. So you've got to make sure you can get a nice clean coverage. Generally sanding back to, 300 will do that. But there is some low there, or a couple of lows. This side of the ute's not ready. You can see down here, see that? So that back rear quarter panel there is still needs a bit of work. It needs to be sanded down. There's still a bit of body fill that's sort of raised up there. This is the stuff you can't see with the naked eye. You 100% need to do this wet test. It's very important from what I've found. So yeah, the saga continues on this side of the ute. Now, whether they're too deep to tackle with the polyester surfacer, I don't know. What I'll do is I'll run over it. Again, I'll sand that back a bit, get the spline out, run it with some polyester surfacer, see if I can start to feather those lows out. They might only be quite shallow, but they show up in the wet test looking quite bad. It's amazing with a little bit of shine, just a tiny little imperfection can show up. So you can see that it's quite bad there. I'm not happy with that at all. So bit of work to go on here. It can all be fixed. It's just it just drags on the whole build, but it'll be worth it in the end. So yeah, pretty close. As you know, I'm just doing all this work on the rotisserie as much as possible to save the dust and the debris going on the chassis once I lower it on. So that's why I haven't yet done that. And there's no point until I can get the body 100%. So after mentioning that I'd been using the Gregory's manual, I wanted to get my hands on one of these, the original Holden WB series service manual. And Robert Barber actually came through with the goods for me and sent a copy for me. So I just wanted to give him a shout out. This thing is awesome. It's got everything that I really needed in that Gregory's manual that wasn't there. So for instance, that Gregory manual told the spec diff bolt up to 40 Newton meters, which was wrong. And as a result, it's now leaking. So if you can get your hands on one of these, this is the way to go. It's got all the details right through from electrical specs, chassis, fuel tanks, everything you need to get you out of trouble and not in trouble. So thank you again, Rob. It's much appreciated. The other thing I needed to fix on this diff, as you know, was the incorrect U-bolts were provided, and the guy didn't refuse to replace them, which was a real shame. So I had to buy some new ones, and they're the correct 75mm distance instead of 85, which the old ones were. So that was another thing that was holding up the diff, so I can put them on. Due to the leaking gasket, I have to get another gasket, and I'll have to replace that and get the bolt out. So it's all fun and games. Also, don't forget, I've got the hoodie still online at Teespring. I'll put the address down there. And I'm also going to get some singlets now that the weather's starting to get a bit hot. So if you want to get a singlet for the workshop, jump on the link below and I'll get them up in the next couple of days. Once again, I'm posting updates on Instagram. It's Barnsies_builds. So check that out in between episodes and you'll find out what I've been up to if you're itching to find out. And that is it. So hopefully I've got some more info for you. Now that the Christmas break's coming up, I'm going to get stuck into this more because of obviously I've got more time from work. So fingers crossed, I'm not going to make any promises, but hopefully it's dropped on the chassis soon. So until the next episode, take it easy and I'll see you then.